Hi, my name is Muyang, and this summer at RIS, I worked under the mentorship of Dr. Simon Stepitis and Professor Katya Sakara on NuActions, a semantic driving dataset for neuro-symbolic action anticipation. So, in the dynamic setting of autonomous driving, it's important to be able to anticipate the actions of other vehicles and pedestrians around you to ensure your safety and others. Current action anticipation datasets focus on human-centric activities such as cooking or assembly, and typically come in the form of RGB videos. Recently, neurosymbolic approaches have been able to achieve state-of-the-art on these human-centric action anticipation datasets, and they do this by extracting meaningful symbolic data such as scene graphs and knowledge graphs, which have the added benefit of being explainable. So, how do we extend action anticipation to driving in a way that lends itself to these neurosymbolic methods? We derive the NuActions dataset from NuScenes, which is one of the most popular large-scale autonomous driving datasets out there. NuScenes comes with semantic maps, detailed multi-layer semantic maps of each of the locations where data was collected, as well as CAN bus data from the onboard sensors and um, rich annotations of the objects around the ego vehicle at each frame. We can use this data and some heuristics to label the actions at each frame, such as turning, driving forward, accelerating, decelerating, changing lanes, overtaking cars, and so on. Then we produce sequences of semantic map scene graph pairs instead of videos to reduce the vision overhead required. To go into a bit more detail, the NuActions dataset consists of these sequences produced from 818 of NuScenes 20-second driving scenes. The semantic maps consist of 11 layers, which can represent the lanes, sidewalks, pedestrian crossings, dividers, traffic lights, etc. Scene graphs contain the instance and map objects as nodes, instance objects being agents like vehicles, pedestrians, and other objects like traffic cones and movable barriers, strollers, and the like, and map objects, any geometry from the aforementioned semantic maps. The edges in the scene graph denote the spatial relationships between the objects, and they can be directed or undirected. Examples of relationships include in front of, behind, on top of, intersecting with, and so on. The NuActions dataset is augmented by using a viewport to query the semantic maps at each frame. This viewport has a center that is not precisely the position of the ego vehicle. By adding some noise offset to this viewport center at each frame and randomizing the angle of the viewport for each new sequence, we can generate multiple sequences per scene to augment our data. To evaluate the usefulness of scene graphs for action anticipation, we adapt a state-of-the-art transformer-based model for called Future to take in our data as input. First, we convert our semantic maps into bit masks to make them easier to embed using convolutional neural networks. And then our scene graphs are embedded by graph neural networks, namely graph attention networks. Then we take these two embeddings and concatenate them to form multimodal input tokens to the transformer. Our preliminary results show that including the scene graph modality, increases the driving straight and change lanes action class prediction accuracy by around 4% for both of them. Potential applications for our dataset include explainability and autonomous driving, aerial surveillance for tracking of vehicles, and anomalous behavior detection in traffic. In future, we want to combine our scene graphs with knowledge graphs to multiply their usefulness and allow us to explain our predictions better by referencing our symbolic knowledge. We would also like to explore continual learning of additional actions. I want to thank the risk organizers, Rachel Burson, Dr. John Dolan, and Morgan Grimm. And thank you to my mentors, Dr. Simon Steputis and Professor Katya Sakara.